Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Kovacs here. Yesterday we started chapter 3 of Eduyot, picking up there on Mishnah 2, continuing Rabbi Dosa ben Harkinus when he argues with the other sages about the halacha. Ochel parud, crumbled up foodstuff, small pieces. Eino mitzdaref, does not combine. Divrei Rabbi Dosa ben Harkinus. So when he says they do not combine, he means to transmit tum'ah, ritual contamination. If you have a piece of food the size of an egg, a kibetza, then if it's tameh, contaminated, it can contaminate other food items. Now, these pieces individually, they're less than that size, but if they're all on one plate or floating in one bowl, maybe they combine. Rabbi Dosa says they do not. Chachamim omrim mitzdaref. The other sages argue, they say they do combine, since they are touching, even if they were originally different kinds of food. Now, the next machloket they have, mehalalin meiser sheni al asimon. Mechalel is to remove the kedusha. So remember from meiser sheni, a couple of years ago, if someone had a lot of meiser sheni produce, they would redeem it onto coins, take the coins to Yerushalayim, and buy food in Yerushalayim, or ideally carbonot there during Yom Tov. Now, asimon is kind of like a coin, but it was not stamped. So it's the shape of a coin, but there's no image on it. So that's still valid. Divrei Rabbi Dosa, Chachamim Omrin, Ein Mechalolin. The other sages say you need an actual coin, not an asimon, an unstamped coin. A while ago, decades ago in Eretz Yisrael, the asimon was actually the token you would use in the phone booth. And it was kind of like a coin, but had a unique shape to fit into the payphones. And of course, Bezek, whichever phone company installed those payphones in Israel decades ago, got that word asimon from our Mishnah. The next machloket, matbilin yadayim lachatat, divrei Rabbi Dosa. Rabbi Dosa says if your hands, your yadayim, became impure and you wanted to use chatat, that's the para aduma water, that can cure ritual contamination, tumat met, from a dead body. Now, we're going to learn all about this in para. There are a lot of stringencies to mei chatat, the para aduma water, and one of them is it cannot be touched with impure hands, even impurity derabonan, a rabbinical impurity. Now, if someone's hands are impure, that's always rabbinical, because on a biblical level, a deraita level, if something's impure, the entire body's impure. So if hands are impure, that's only a rabbinical form of impurity. So Rabbi Dosa says you're allowed to just put the hands in the mikveh, and then your hands are clean again, enough to use mei chatat waters. Chachamim omrim im nitmu yadav nitmu gufo. The sages say if his hands are impure, even rabbinically, then his entire body is considered impure, and he would have to go to the mikveh. Even though it's a rabbinic impurity, he would need to put his whole body in the mikveh before he handles the para aduma waters. Now on to Mishnah Gimel, more of Rabbi Dosa, here about gifts given to Kohanim. Me'ai avatiach, the kishkas of the watermelon. This means really the juice that oozes out and the seeds and the pits of fruits. Uknivat yarek, or the things you pull off of vegetables, like the leaves and the things you don't really eat, the stems, shel truma. But these are truma fruits. Rabbi Dosa mater l'zarim. Rabbi Dosa says non-kohanim, called zarim. Zar usually means stranger, but it refers to a non-Kohen. A zar could actually eat this stuff because it's not really considered food. Normally, a zar cannot eat any truma, but he says that's just food. This is kind of, refuse. It's not the real food. Chachamim osrim. The sages forbid a non-Kohen from eating this, even though it's not normally eaten part of this food. Now, the last case in the Mishnah is about Reshit Hagez. That means the first of the shearing of the sheep. Now, the first shearing of the sheep goes to a Kohen. It's a gift, one of the Matznot Kahuna, a gift to a Kohen. But how much shearing is an actual shearing? And, what's a haircut and what's just a trim? Chamesh Rechelot. If he's cutting 5 sheep, Gezuzot, and what was shorn from them, Mane Upras. It's a mana and a half for each sheep, hayavot reshit hagez. Then he has to give part of that as the first shearing to a Kohen, divrei Rabbi Dosa. So Rabbi Dosa says it's a fairly large amount, a mana and a half from each sheep. The Mefarshim say it's about 600 grams. It's more than a pound from each sheep to trigger the first shearing. That's considered a shearing. Chachamim omrim chamesh rechelot kol shachan. The other sages disagree. They say if you're shearing 5 sheep, even a little bit. In the Gemara, there's actually the Mefarshim, they explain that when they say kol shehen, they bring that it is a small amount. It's not nothing. It's not like a little tiny trim. It's actually, if there's some degree of shearing, that's some significant size, but it's just a much smaller size than what Rabbi Dosa holds would trigger Rishit HaGez. Yishar kochachem, tizku l'mitzvos.